In the world of rugged smartphones, Oukitel has carved a niche for itself, offering durable, feature-rich devices at a fraction of the price of the big-name brands. And the Oukitel WP35 carries on this tradition, offering 5G connectivity, a really durable and relatively sleek design for a rugged phone at a very competitive price. But of course, with any rugged phone, there are compromises in certain areas. So is the Oukitel WP35 a rugged phone that you would consider buying? Let's dive into all of its features. Let's take a look. So of course, as the name suggests, rugged phones are all about durability. And the WP35 doesn't disappoint. It features an IP68, IP69K rating, ensuring it can withstand dust, dirt, and complete water submersion for up to 1.5 meters for 30 minutes, and it can also withstand jets of water. And Oukitel also claims the military grade compliance, meaning it can survive drops, extreme temperatures, and shocks with ease. Now, while the IP68 and IP69K rating is pretty typical for budget phones, you are seeing these ratings on just the bog standard flagship grade smartphones, so it's not as niche as it used to be. The phone sports a rubberized exterior with reinforced corners to absorb impact, and the back panel has a textured grip to prevent slipping. And despite being rugged, the WP35 still maintains a somewhat sleek look compared to older, bulkier models, making it more comfortable for daily use. And Oukitel do rave about this being the slimmest 11,000 mAh rugged phone, which is of course a very specific thing. But to be fair to them, the WP35 isn't as unwieldy as some other rugged phones that I've used in the past, so it's definitely manageable for me, and I don't have the biggest hands. And the screen of the WP35 is a 6.6-inch Full HD Plus LCD display with just a 60Hz refresh rate. This is protected with Corning Gorilla Glass 5, which will give you some pretty decent protection, but not as much as even the most recent standard smartphones today. And considering this phone was released in 2024, using a Gorilla Glass version that was released way back in 2016 is a very odd move, personally, I think, for what Oukitel have done. But of course, that's going to be a way of keeping the cost down. Corning Gorilla Glass 5 should still give you some pretty good protection, and you do get a pre-applied screen protector on the phone as well, just to help prevent some more scratches. But overall, the display on the Oukitel WP35 is actually a pretty nice display. You get that 1080p resolution. Quite often you'll find 720p displays on these rugged phones to help keep the costs down. But yeah, 1080p, although it's 60Hz, not the end of the world, but there are other rugged phones with 120Hz refresh rates, and you do get the standard chunky bezels around the outside of the phone, which is just done to help improve its durability. And performance is taken care of by the MediaTek Dimensity 6100 Plus 5G processor, which gives you absolutely fine everyday performance. It's not going to be a powerhouse, not what you would expect at this price, but it's paired with 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of UFS 2.2 storage. It offers smooth enough performance for everyday tasks and moderate gaming. You can boost the RAM up to 24 gigabytes using some of the built-in storage. If you do a lot of multitasking and stuff like that, that will just give you a bit of flexibility with the RAM. But overall, you're not going to get blazing performance, but it's absolutely fine for everyday use. And of course, one of the standout features of the WP35 is the fact that it's got 5G connectivity. More often than not, a lot of the older rugged phones were just limited to 4G connectivity. But for those in remote locations, which a lot of people will typically be in when you're using a rugged phone, having 5G connectivity is a really great addition. Just gives you those fast speeds for when you want to do all of your bits and bobs. Of course, on that entry level-ish chip, you're not going to get the fastest performance overall, but having that 5G connectivity is just a great addition on this phone. Now, out of the box, the Oukitel WP35 is running Android 14, and it has a pretty clean UI with very little bloatware. But overall, the software experience on the WP35 is pretty clean. You get a few customization options, very few wallpapers. You can't do a huge amount when it comes to changing your icons and that sort of stuff. It is pretty basic, but that's about as basic as what you'd need given the circumstances of where you'd be using this phone. And when it comes to software updates, naturally, I wouldn't be expecting a huge amount from this phone. I wouldn't even guarantee that this is even going to get Android 15. You may get a few security patches here and there. I am stuck on I think it's November 2024 security patch on my model here and on Android 14. It may well get Android 15. It may well get a couple of years of odd security patches here and there, but I wouldn't hold my breath for it getting regular security and software updates, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, Oukitel as an overall brand, even for their smartphones, aren't the most well known for offering software support for their devices. So I wouldn't hold your breath, but if you're not too bothered about it, the software experience is fine. It's not the best, it's basic, but it is absolutely fine. And of course, the main standout feature of this WP35 is its huge 11,000 milliamp hour battery. Of course, given the nature of the phones, the larger batteries are pretty much a given. They are designed to last potentially a weekend if you're taking this phone away, and you will absolutely get an entire weekend from this battery. If you're a really heavy user whilst you're away, a lot of sat nav and a lot of the camera, which we'll get onto in a minute, you might be able to kill it a bit sooner, but for me, I can absolutely get 3 days out of this with pretty light use. Absolutely fine. It does come with just 18 watts of charging. So charging is going to take an age, almost what it feels like, a few hours definitely. But overall endurance on this phone has been absolutely great. I've got no complaints. And as you can see, not a bad dimension when you consider the size of the battery in this phone. Yeah, overall, really, really great. And then if I just quickly touch on the cameras of this phone, you get headlined by a 64 megapixel f1.9 primary camera, and that's backed by an 8 megapixel night vision camera f2.0, and then you just get a third lens, which could be a macro, depth sensor, that sort of thing. But overall, the quality of the sensor isn't going to be anything spectacular, and that definitely shows in the photos. In broad daylight, you get some pretty serviceable photos, but you don't get a huge amount of detail. And then when the lighting drops, the results are as what you'd expect from a phone like this. They fall apart pretty quickly, noise is everywhere. So overall, yeah, you don't buy this phone for the camera, but that's to be expected. The night vision camera, you could say, is a little bit gimmicky. It does work, but how many people are going to be using it? Of course, in everyday use, you're not going to use a night vision camera, but when you're out and about, when you're doing some hiking and you're in the dark, you would certainly potentially use that night vision camera. And then you get a 32 megapixel selfie camera. Again, are pretty serviceable for daylight photos, and then a bit of video call if that's what you want to use this for. But again, when the lighting drops, the quality of the images drops pretty quickly as well. So overall, not a very exciting camera system, but then again, like I said, you don't potentially buy these phones for the quality of their cameras. You buy them for other features. So yeah, the cameras are okay, but nothing special. So overall, as far as rugged phones go, I think the WP35 is a really nice phone. It's got a really nice textured back. If you want to use the phone without its bundled clear case, you should be able to get a little bit of grip on the back of it as well. You get a really nice design. It comes in a few colors, green, gray, and I think a bronze is another color option as well. And it costs around 230 quid off the likes of Amazon. There is a WP35S, which drops a few of the specs down, 720p display, drops the camera specs down a little bit as well. And that is below 200 quid, I believe. You can get that on Amazon as well. But let me know down in the comments what you think of the Oukitel WP35. Is it a rugged phone that you would consider buying if you're in the market for that sort of phone? Overall for me, I think this is a really great option. 120Hz display would have been nice, and a slightly better camera would have been nice as well, but then that's just for me. I like a pretty decent camera. But let me know down in the comments. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed videos like this and you want to see more. Let me know down in the comments if you do, and I'll see you in the next one.